Good morning, everyone. May I have your attention for a moment, please? If there are any recipients that are currently seated in the ballroom, would you please make your way forward to see me? Thank you. May I have your attention, please? Is there a Mr. Samuel Haycroft seated in the ballroom? If so, Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Government House. As official proceedings will shortly be commencing, now would be an opportune moment for you to check that your mobile phones are switched off or turned to silent. As the Governor arrives, you will be asked to stand and remain standing. A fanfare will be played, followed by the Vice-Regal salute. This sounds like the Australian National Anthem, the distinction being that you do not sing. You will be given the opportunity to sing the Australian National Anthem at the conclusion of the ceremony. Throughout the presentation of awards this morning, please hold your applause until all recipients' names and citations have been read. When I return to the lectern in a few moments, it will be to announce the arrival of the Governor. Thank you. Would you please be upstanding for the arrival of Her Excellency, Professor the Honourable Margaret Gardner, Governor of Victoria.
Please be seated. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which Government House and its grounds sit, the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. Your Excellency, I invite you to present the honours and awards in the Order of Australia. To be officers in the General Division, the Honourable Kevin Harcourt Bell, for distinguished service to the judiciary, to the law, and to human rights through education and reform. Professor Joanne Douglas, for distinguished service to medical research, to clinical immunology and allergy, to respiratory medicine, and to tertiary education. Dr. Richard John Mills, for distinguished service to the performing arts as a composer, conductor, and artistic director. Professor Cynthia Allison Mitchell, for distinguished service to the environment through water resource sustainability as an innovator, leader, and academic. To be members in the General Division, Gareth Elliott Andrews, for significant service to the Australian Football League as a player and administrator, to men's health and to the community. Dr. Amanda Barrick, for significant service to anesthesiology, to pain medicine, and to tertiary education. Daniel Benjamin Beeson, for significant service to the arts and to philanthropy. Peter John Blunden, for significant service to journalism, particularly through print media, and to the community. His Honour Judge Michael Patrick Burke, for significant service to the judiciary, to the law, and to the community of Melbourne. Emeritus Professor Thea Charlotte Brown, for significant service to social welfare, particularly through family violence and child protection research. Emeritus Professor Michael Walter Buxton, for significant service to urban and environmental planning, to tertiary education, and to the community. Robin Jean Campbell, for significant service to arts administration and to the community. Alyssa Peter Camplin Warner, for significant service to the community through support for paediatric healthcare. Mark Anthony Cubitt, for significant service to the community through charitable organisations. Dr. Shireen Devan-Asen, for significant service to community health through governance and administrative roles. Christina Isabel Gillies, for significant service to community health, to business through governance and leadership roles. Professor Sharon Ruth Goldfeld, for significant service to paediatric medicine as a clinician and academic, and to public health research. The late Jacob Koppel Goldstein, to be received by his wife, Deirdre Goldstein, in recognition of his significant service to medicine as a cardiothoracic surgeon and as a surgical mentor. Christopher Warren Hall, for significant service to psychology, particularly to grief and bereavement. Shireen Marie Hamber, for significant service to the Jewish community and to the law. Professor Elizabeth Hartland, for significant service to medical research, particularly microbiology, and to tertiary education. Karen Louise Heap, for significant service to the Indigenous community in a range of roles. George Everard Hill, for significant service to the culinary industry as a chef and educator and the community. To receive the Conspicuous Service Cross, Colonel Richard Anthony Nissel, for outstanding devotion to duty as the commanding officer of the 6th Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment. For their actions during the attempted rescue of a driver in a crashed vehicle near Allansford, Victoria on the 31st of January 2020, to receive the Bravery Medal, Kylie Fowler. To receive the Commendation for Brave Conduct, Matthew James Brunton. To receive the Public Service Medal, Louise Galloway, for outstanding public service to primary and community health policy development in Victoria. Jennifer Margaret Green, for outstanding public service in public administration to successive secretaries of the Victorian Department of Premier and Cabinet. Alexandra Greenwell, for outstanding public service in education and early childhood development. Monique Hamilton, for outstanding public service in delivering significant and enduring reform in project and contract management. Donald Huff, for outstanding public service to the Victorian community through committed engagement and the delivery of projects. Jason Anthony Laus, for outstanding public service in the commercial structuring and delivery of infrastructure projects. Ryan William Phillips, for outstanding public service in fostering a safe and equitable justice system. Associate Professor Rex Pies Pabru, for outstanding public service to regional medical services. Catherine Ann Quinn, for outstanding public service to forensic science and reform in the scientific field in support of community safety. William Arthur Whitford, for outstanding public service in the financial sector. To receive the Ambulance Service Medal for Distinguished Ambulance Service, Lindsay Kirsten Mackay. To receive the Emergency Services Medal for Distinguished Emergency Service, Grant Bruce Bedwell. Jim Kokalis. David Mackenzie. Susan Seldrick. Joseph Robert Watt. To receive the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division, Anita Ilza Anderson, for service to the Latvian community of Australia. Giorgio Angele, for service to the restaurant and hospitality industry. Wilhelmina Lara Armstrong, for service to the community of East Gippsland. Fiona Bamford Bracher, for service to community radio. Brigadier Neil Edmund Babington, for service to veterans and to the community. Judith Barbara Bisland, for service to vocational education and to the community. Veronica Mary Blair, for service to the community, particularly through the church. Gwyneth K. Fitzgerald, for service to the community of Glen Ira. Ernest Noel Blake, for service to veterans and their families and to the community. Elizabeth Kathleen Bobeth, for service to community health, particularly asylum seekers. Kerry Michael Bolger, for service to education. Helen Claire Botham, for service to childhood literacy and to historical preservation. Councillor Mary Ann Brown, for service to local government and to the communities of Dunkeld and Hamilton. Eric Walter Bumstead, for service to the community of the Cardinia region. Alison Burns, for service to community health standards. Michelle Chalice, for service to the communities of Geelong and Ballarat. Noel Terence Clement, for service to the community through charitable organisations. Philip Charles Collins, for service to primary industry and to the community of Lockington. Mary Elizabeth Thoriakula, for service to the community through a range of roles. Robin Mary Davidson, for service to adventure and exploration literature. Robert James Dean, for service to the community of Redcliffs. Elizabeth Ann Doxey for service to police veterans. Major Graham William Doxey for service to the community of Albury and to veterans. Claire Beatrice Edmondson for service to youth through Scouts. Dr. James Edward Elder for service to medicine as an ophthalmologist. Lee William Evans for service to softball through international and national umpiring. Jeffrey Ewan Franklin for service to athletics. Alan Thomas Fry for service to the communities of Kahuna and Leachville. Robert John Gartland for service to the community of Geelong. Dr. John Edward Galt for service to the community of Bendigo. Marlene Gilson for service to the visual arts. Annette Linda Gladwin for service to the Jewish community of Victoria. Valerie Lorraine Hall for service to the community through a range of roles. Jen Hargrave for service to people with disability and to the community. Dr. Suzanne Margaret Harrison for service to rural medicine. Dr. Richard Brian Harrod for service to emergency medicine. Denise Ann Heinges for service to nursing. Deborah Ann Henderson for service to community health, particularly through cancer awareness. Susan Jane Henderson for service to the community of East Melbourne. Claire Marie Henschel for service to the community of Warrigal. Margaret Smith Heslin for service to the communities of Casey and Berwick. Donna Jane Hope for service to the people and Parliament of Victoria and to bowel cancer awareness. Adele Hulse for service to the community through a range of roles. Carolyn Elizabeth Ingverson for service to conservation and to the community of Bundara. Elizabeth Mary Jackson for service to history preservation organisations and to the community. Peter Charles Johnson for service to the community of the Shepparton region. Dr. Carl Lee for service to medicine in the motorsports industry. The late Professor Emeritus William John Louis, to be received by his son, Neil Louis, in recognition of his service to medicine as a clinical pharmacologist. Susan Mary Love for service to the community of Malmesbury. Angus Mackay, for service to philanthropy, to education, and to local sport. Bic Cam Nguyen, for service to the multicultural community of Victoria. To receive the Conspicuous Service Medal, Warrant Officer Class 2 Julian James Evans, for meritorious achievement as the Acting 16th Aviation Brigade Communications Officer and Brigade Communications Manager. To receive the Commendation for Brave Conduct, Samuel Haycroft, for his actions rescuing a man from a capsized boat off Ventnor Beach on Phillip Island, Victoria, on the 29th of July, 2015. Martin Ernest Long, for his actions rescuing a trapped person from floodwaters in Warwick, Victoria, on the 13th of October, 2022. Brad McCosh, for his actions rescuing a swimmer at Logan's Beach in Warrnambool, Victoria, on the 4th of March, 2019. Thomas Martin Robinson, for his actions during an armed arson attack in Coronet Bay, Victoria, on the 15th of September, 2019. Please join Her Excellency in congratulating all today's recipients. Your Excellency, I now invite you to address us.
The Honourable Jacqueline Symes, Attorney-General and Minister for Emergency Services, representing the Premier. Jeremy Moule, Secretary, and Joshua Poles, Deputy Secretary, Justice and Public Administration, Department of Premier and Cabinet. Kate Houghton, Secretary, Department of Justice and Community Safety. Alison Lardner, representing Rick Nugent, Emergency Management Commissioner, Emergency Management Victoria. Eddie Lacko, representing Gavin Freeman, Commissioner Fire Rescue Victoria. Brigadier Simon Welsh, representing Major General Jason Blaine, Senior Army Officer of Victoria. Coralie Lever, Victoria President, Australian Bravery Association. Distinguished guests one and all, and of course all the people who are here supporting those who've been so rightly recognised today. Let me begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which this house stands, the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nations, and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and recognise other Indigenous elders who are with us in the room today. It is a great pleasure. Investiture ceremonies are very moving ceremonies, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you to Government House, and I do always feel, as I look down this spectacular room, that it's only right that Victoria was smart enough to build this ballroom when they did, so that we could recognise people in our community in a way that befits the contributions they've made. So in 1915, a long time ago, and out of the memory of everyone in this room directly, as the world was gripped by war, a war that at the time people felt would never have its equal in severity and destruction, Banjo Paterson penned a poem to Australian soldiers fighting overseas. He spoke of the unity that people at the time felt was being created, the notion of Australia, and gripping all Australians no matter their background. And the poem goes, "And with Australia's flag shall fly a spray of wattle bough to symbolise our unity. We're all Australians now." The poem was titled "We're All Australians Now," and it reflected a sense of community that emerged from the circumstances of supporting that great volunteer contribution. It was a volunteer contribution to a dreadful war that was happening overseas, and the support was happening at home. And despite the hardship, and it was a significant hardship and a significant blow to what was a relatively new nation, Australians found an identity and a mythos that helped them find ways through the darkness of that period. You could argue that it was at that point that some of the notions of what it was to be part of a new nation emerged. One could have hoped that they emerged in the peaceful creation of the nation, but they seemed to take hold after that time in that great war. And it bound people together through a shared duty to community, regardless of heritage or creed, regardless of background. The circumstances of recent global and local challenges are vastly different, but the need that we find in the face of crisis, whether it is felt in war and conflict or felt in the circumstances that come surprisingly out of the natural world to us rather more frequently than we would like, those circumstances are often the circumstances when we recognise quite clearly how much we rely on and draw on community and on all of us working together at those times. And that is what is actually so moving about Order of Investiture ceremonies. It's a time when we actually get to stop, and we're thinking not just about individual achievement, and there are people who've been recognised today whose achievements are so significant that they will be remembered for a very long time and go to their individual talents and achievements. But overwhelmingly what we recognise today is what people have done for others in their community, with others in their community. And we saw it walk across that red carpet, everything from people selflessly stepping in what are dangerous circumstances in which the threat to their lives is significant, but nevertheless reached out to help others in danger. Others who've just given over and over again for decade after decade to the communities in which they live, the organisations which they support, and have gone on and on being the person who didn't step back fast enough, but who always chose to step forward. And that's overwhelmingly what we have seen here today, and we should be really proud of those that have taken the time to actually bring those achievements forward, but that we are so regularly recognising the sort of work that sometimes goes unnoticed at the time, because it is decades of work that's recognised in many of the communities here. It is continuing service to particular causes, to particular areas of endeavour, whether they're cultural or sporting, whether they're intellectual or other. It is that continuing engagement with others to make a difference in our community and to the fields with which people are committed and to which people are committed. And it gives you a real sense of our community spirit. When Banjo Paterson wrote that poem, we still had a British honours system, which, again, we're all getting to the point where we can't quite remember it. And I find sometimes that when we get to these ceremonies, there are people who don't realise that the honours we're giving are Australian honours, decided by us. Our community recognising our Australians. So it took another 60 years for the Australian honours system to come in the 1970s, but it is important that we recognise what we most value, and the achievements we saw today say something, I think, about communities that care about the things that really matter. Because there are medals that are given out for all sorts of things, but these medals are about a sustained commitment over a lifetime, and that's what's really important about them. It is great to see the community spirit I see when I tour around, to see people here who give witness to it, to see all the wonderful things that have been achieved. And today it's only right that we recognise these achievements and we bring the stories that are behind the medals today to light. It is this ceremony an open, shared recognition of what people dedicate to the lives of others as well as to themselves. And I encourage everyone to continue thinking and to nominating people who need to be recognised because they speak to what we care about. I'm sure that everyone here who's received an honour will probably say there were a lot of other people involved, that they were supported by others, and so I'd like to thank everyone that they've invited here to share with them in this ceremony, because you are the support that has helped them to this end. And I'd like to congratulate very warmly everyone who's being recognised today. Your actions matter. They mattered yesterday, they matter now, they matter into the future. It's what we do, not what we say, that counts in this world. So, I'm very pleased to say that we recognised all the sorts of Australians that we should care about. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. If you are able to do so, would you please stand and join in the singing of the first verse of the national anthem and remain standing for the departure of the Governor. Thank you.
That concludes official proceedings for today. On behalf of all of us at Government House, we congratulate all of the award recipients. The state apartments will now be open for viewing. On behalf of the Governor, I invite you to stay and to